All right, everybody, welcome once again to another fantastic episode of the Mr. Eccentric Podcast. My name is Rick. I am your host, as usual, and I'm bringing back my very first two-time guest here. He was my first guest on my very first episode, the host of the Inquisitive Nobody Podcast, Mr. Martini. Gene, how's it going, man?
What's going on, man? I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me back once again.
Nah, no problem, man. Thank you for coming on. This is kind of like a continuation episode. We just kind of wrapped up a great conversation over on your podcast not too long ago. Episode number 124, I believe it was. Nice for what? Won't you tell the
Yes,
folks,
it was.
give the folks just a quick little recap, and full disclosure, we're going to have pretty much a continuation conversation here stemming from this episode that we did over on the Inquisitive Nobody podcast. We'll also be touching on another previous episode that Martini did on there, which is episode number 114, to all the girls. But before we dive into that, go ahead, Martini. As always, let the folks know who you are, where they can find you, and quick little recap of our most recent conversation.
Absolutely. Well, hold on. Let me get my notes here. But yeah. So you can. I am the Inquisitive Nobody Podcast. You can find my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Listen Notes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TINQPOD. All right. So yeah, Ricardo and I had a conversation on my podcast on episode 24. It was called Nice for What? What has being good ever gotten you? Your time is up, my time is now. And essentially, it was just trying to talk about, mainly it was about me. I mean, I get very personal and very vulnerable on my podcast, and I have no problem doing that. And it was essentially talking about over the years and pretty much like over the decades, I've always been uh, told that, oh man, Martini's great, Martini's nice, and blah blah blah. But in the midst of things, like where has the niceness gotten from me? And it's not to say that I like, oh, maybe sometimes, like maybe quote unquote assholes, as Ricardo like discussed,
Yeah.
they might have gotten further in life, whether it's through career or relationships and stuff like that. But it was mainly towards relationships. Like, why are they getting further, but they're like, like the quote unquote bad guy, but me being the nice guy and everybody telling me that I'm a nice guy, why aren't I further along? Or how come that hasn't granted me access to the quote unquote greater things in life and stuff like that? So, we just had a really good, hearty conversation about that, and it was really good. Yeah, and I mean, I liked it a lot. And then and Ricardo had an idea to springboard off this episode, and this is what we're about to do right now. So I can't wait for it.
Yeah. So, touching up on the asshole aspect that you kind of breezed through. So, one of the things we did talk about on the previous conversation on episode 124 on the Inquisitive Nobody podcast was that dynamic about kind of what is an asshole in today's culture, right? Like, what is the difference between a nice
Right.
guy and an asshole? What are the different levels of being an asshole? And is there a need, identifying a need for every nice guy to have a little bit of asshole in them, right? So the heel turn is something that we've been kind of talking about, and kind of inching towards to see, hey, is Martini always going to be this nice guy? Does he have that edge and whatnot? And one of the things that I wanted to do today was kind of have a conversation around that mindset of the nice guy and how it has truly essentially made you who you are, made you the person you are. So I want to jump into the to the All the Girls episode. That episode was extremely fascinating to me. If you give, without jumping into specifics with the individual females that you spoke about, uh, give the listeners just a quick rundown of what the concept was behind that episode.
Well, essentially, yes. So, just like you mentioned, it was episode 114, and it was called "To All the Girls I Liked Before." We had chemistry, but were we even really compatible? And it was just pretty much I'm on this, sort of quest to, you know, get rid of all the mental blocks in my head, and go through all the like the last, I don't know, like 7 or 8 relationships or flings that I've had, and really discuss within myself, the good things, the bad things, why why we had chemistry, and then why we broke up, and then why I still think about it, why particularly I had terms like why does it still hurt, and like, can I move on from it or something like that, because I just really wanted to really digest every relationship and see why some of those things I hang on to, and that I can get over it, and then sort of like wash myself away from it and to start anew. So I've been doing that chronologically with my episodes, and this one was a really important one for me to get to because I do eventually want to find a new girlfriend and get into a new relationship. But first, I need to find out, get rid of all that baggage, or at least examine the baggage first before getting rid of
All right, so that's a great segue.
it.
Examining the baggage. So let's do that. Before we start talking about some of these girls from this great episode, I wanted to ask you, um, what is your definition? Now, before I even ask you this question, I want to make it known that for those of you who may not have listened to multiple episodes of the Inquisitive Nobody podcast or not, as Martini mentioned, he is very transparent. He has no problems putting himself out there and sharing his feelings and the inner workings of his mind and whatnot, which is great, because that lends to amazing conversations, right? And one of the things that I know you focus on a lot is the idea of what manhood is and being a man and what that looks like in today's society. So I wanted to ask you, what is your definition of a man?
Wow. I mean, that is a very good question because it's weird because to be honest, I don't even know if I have an exact definition because it's like, hmm, how do I put this? It's more so like it's almost like it doesn't matter what my definition of what a man is because I feel that whoever I'm trying to pursue or something like that, it's almost as if I have to fulfill that quota of what a man is. Because, again, I can say right now, I can give you a list of what a man is, right? Sure. But if it's not what they want, does it matter? Because it's not hitting their mark. Because I could be like, well, what's the definition of man? Me. Like I can say me, like, and I can list my characteristics, but clearly I'm a single person, so like, and my characteristics aren't, you know, working with some of the people that I've encountered or talked about in that episode 124, and I can also see the men that the women that rejected me did go with, and see that, okay, to them that's their man, because it's not like they went after another guy, they married the guy, so they're like, okay, clearly this is what they think a this that guy is a man to them. So to be honest, I don't know. I really couldn't give you a definition. I mean, I can seriously go like cliches, like, oh, a man is I don't know, whatever, strong and capable and uh uh stoic or something like that. But like that could be somebody who's fake and not trying to be that. Or I can say a man is vulnerable. He's into his feelings, but we know some women don't like guys who are in their feelings like that, even though they press their man on being more
Yeah.
vulnerable. So like there's another
that's
caveat,
that
you know what I
that's
mean?
that
So it's just
beautiful
like
catch 22 cliche.
yeah, so it's just like like I truly could not tell you. I could not. I honestly cannot give you a definition of what I believe a man is.
Okay, so with that said, follow-up question. When's the last time you felt like a man?
Oh wow, damn, that is a good question. Um, the last time I felt like a man, hmm, just primarily, I'll give you two instances, very different scenarios. One is when I the last time I changed my tire on my car, all by myself and stuff like that. That was the last time I felt like a man, whatever. Because I did something not that was hard, but like you did something on your own, something constructive on your own. But another thing that was because of somebody relaying the message that um, that I was a man and that I was confident was when um, the last time I had sex with my friends with benefits,
Hmm.
because she was like, because she says that, man, I wish you were as she's always said this to me. I wish that you were as confident outside of the bedroom than you are inside. She was like, man, like when you're in like the bedroom, like you are confident, you are assured of yourself and all that stuff. So
So we actually, I know, going back to that All the Girls episode, you actually talk about the friends with benefits situation, right?
yep.
So I have some notes and a couple of the ladies I wanted to touch on, but she actually wasn't one of the ones that I necessarily had bookmarked to talk about today. But since you bring it up, before we jump into some of the other ladies, I'm curious, what do you think is that disconnect when it comes to your confidence in the bedroom compared to your confidence just out in regular everyday social situations?
um Again, not to like toot my own horn or pat my own back, but I believe that I am a good lover. It's not the first time that I've heard compliments in that retrospect. I mean, in that episode with those ladies, I mean, I didn't have sex with all of them, but I had sex with some of them, and they've all said the same thing. I'm very aware of their feelings. I'm very aware of their touch. They like my touch. My love language, my first love language, is touch. So that all plays a factor into it. I'm very aware. I listen to them. I listen to their needs. I satisfy their needs. I make sure they come first, literally, and pun intended. And pun intended. So yeah. So that's the thing. But in society, you get hit in the bedroom. I have to. Yeah, I mean, unless you're a player, but in the bedroom, I have to satisfy one person, you know.
Yeah.
But in society, I have to combat every person
Mm.
that comes in my peripheral. You know what I mean? And I might not be able to, not sexually satisfy the person, but satisfy their needs. My manager might not like the job that I did, for them, today, today, and that happens. Sometimes they're like, like I wish you did more work, or I wish you were a little quicker on your assignment because I had another assignment for you, or like, being confident in speaking with my parents about being more of an adult and stuff like that, or kind of making me feel, I don't know, not saying guilt trip me, but like, you know, that I should be more along in life, and they're kind of sad, and it makes me feel sad that I'm not more farther in life and stuff like that. So like, yeah, the disconnect is there. Is like everybody has a different want, a different need, a different expectation of me, and I might not be able to fulfill that. But at least I'm good in one area, then I'm happy about that. But again, I need to. bring that over to the public as opposed to the private.
Yeah. Okay. So in the All the Girls episode, one of the things that I enjoyed the most was the code names. Even me as even me as somebody who knows you as well as I do, known you literally pretty much my entire life. Like I'm listening to this episode and I'm trying to dissect these code names and be like, man, who is that person? Ooh, who could have that one been? Or, oh, I think I know who
Right.
this was. So, that was awesome. But with that in mind, having the code names and whatnot, like I said, there were a couple that kind of stood out to me that I wanted to talk about. So we'll go through a couple of them, right? I'm gonna have you give me like a quick synopsis of, kind of why that relationship didn't necessarily work out in your opinion. All right, so quick
Okay.
synopsis of what the dynamic looked like and then why it didn't work out. All right, so we're gonna start off right off top. We're gonna start off with Ramona.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Ramona. Essentially, I was too much of an introvert for her. She was very adventurous. She liked ATVing in the sand and doing all that stuff. And yeah, she was just more adventurous than I was. That's essentially why it didn't work out.
So one of the things that I picked up from that, right, was you mentioned way more adventurous than you, love doing all these things that you didn't necessarily do, or what was it a matter of you not trying? So let's take the ATVing stuff for example. Is that something you've tried before and didn't like, or you've just never done it, not something you would ever want to do?
I've never done it. Back then, I don't. Back then, I probably would have been too scared to do an ATV because I've never done so. I've never. I was never on like a dirt bike or anything like a anything close to like an ATV. So I don't know. And I know they like do those things on like honeymoon excursions and stuff like that. So like I mean, it seems pretty cool. I mean, I have friends who have done that before. I mean, nowadays, maybe I mean, if it was like with a girl, probably I'd try it out. I mean, I don't think I'd necessarily be opposed to it. I mean, I would still be a little anxious because I like an ATV just reminds me of a motorcycle, and I would never get on a motorcycle, but I think an ATV is a little bit safer. So I mean, I would probably do that. But yeah, back then it was a no go.
So how do you get to a point in a relationship where something like that, something like not being adventurous enough, ends up being the reason why the relationship falls apart? Like, was it an argument? Like, was there an event set up, or was it something that she really wanted you to do that you refused to do? Like, how did you more or less get around to kind of like that being the catalyst?
I don't know if that was necessarily the catalyst. I think that was more the what is it the straw that broke the camel's
Okay.
back because we would every so often when I would go to like her apartment and we would lay down and chill and we really didn't like do anything, but I mean it was cool. We were just like chilling and cuddling and stuff like that. But she would tell me about her past things, like oh she would go to like Jamaica and stuff like that all the time, like on a whim. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not, back then, I mean, I was making scrap money, I couldn't do that. And yeah, she would just tell me just things like that that she would just be like spontaneous and I mean we didn't go out for that long, but there was nothing in my repertoire that demanded that. I mean, we would just like sometimes we would just sit there and like watch freaking like superhero movies, and that's my shit.
Yeah.
So like, so yeah, we really didn't do much. Even though she really did enjoy uh my time with her. I wasn't fulfilling that need that she would eventually need,
Okay.
So yeah, that's and that was pretty much it. Like because she was saying like, man, I used to go ATVing in the sand, but it doesn't seem like you'd be interested in that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I would. So and that's when the decline and the down the relationship went downhill pretty much.
Okay, so that's Ramona. We'll pause there with Ramona. We're gonna move on to our next contestant. Brutus. Brutus was the next one. So tell me a little bit about Brutus as far as what the dynamic was in the relationship, and then what eventually led to the demise.
Okay, well, I mean, oof, how can I summarize Brutus? I mean, Brutus was a pretty diesel one. Yeah, we went out for like 4 months. We went out for like 4 months, and like in the middle of that 4 months, she wanted me to like move in and stuff like that, or she wanted to have plans for me to move in, and I was like, yo, I can't, I still live with my parents, I can't freaking do that. I'm out, again, not making enough money and stuff like that. So she was like, all right, cool. But then I kind of found out that I was sort of even though she did enjoy our time with each other again, I was pretty much like a placeholder, because as soon as like we broke up, she got with the guy that she was waiting for, and then their relationship was like you know shit-tastic, and we had a big falling out because I felt amiss about that. I was like, whoa, like that's freaking messed up. I was like a placeholder, and then we had falling out for like 7 years, and then we got reacquainted, and then we became cool again, and then she wanted to start a podcast. So I was like, this is weird, but it worked because a lot of people like that dynamic, because we started a podcast as exes, and we didn't hide that from anybody. That was pretty much our shtick, and we had a lot of listeners and great episodes, and it was cool. And then I felt that I was like, you know what? Oh, and then she met a guy who would eventually be her husband, and I was like, you know what? Now it's really weird. So I was like, I need to leave. So I left that podcast. But again, I did want to do other things, um, creatively on my own. So she continued the podcast past me, and then I just went on my own and stuff like that. So as of today, we still keep in touch with each other, but it's at least on my end, it's more of a like a love hate relationship.
So you mentioned something about a placeholder. Like, why? At what point did you feel like you were a placeholder within the relationship? Was it during the relationship, or was it afterwards when she got with whoever the guy was afterwards?
hmm Um, I believe it was definitely near the end, because I guess we just weren't gelling anymore, because I think she did want to move forward, and her her interpretation of moving forward would be like moving in, because she has told me before, like she's never not have a boyfriend move in with her, so that's like her thing. I found that out much later, but during that time, I was just like, because he wasn't necessarily always around, but like he was like lurking in the shadows, you know. So
Yeah,
I found out that like every time every time one was in a relationship, the other one wasn't. So it was like back and forth, like, oh damn it, we missed our time or whatever. So that's why, because again, well, like when I left, I think a couple months later, he moved in, and then they stayed together for like 3 years, and she had a horrible relationship with him, and I know that firsthand because she would call me, telling me that this guy's horrible, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with that?
so
So,
that's actually another running theme that I noticed through a lot of the ins and outs with these women in the past, is that a lot of times you get that sense where they they break off the relationship, or the relationship doesn't work out, but they still want you around in a certain capacity, right? Whether it's the friend
right.
zone situation, whatever you want to call it, friend zoned, or just you know, misery loves company. I don't know. Like what do you equate it to?
I don't know, but I remember doing. I don't know if I did an episode about it, but I remember saying a part where I'm like, yeah, it's funny how these women don't want me in their life, but no, no, what was it? They don't want me in their lives, but like they want me in theirs. You know what I'm saying? It's like a weird thing, and I'm just like, that's so weird. Like, how come? I don't know. Like, I guess they want me in on their terms because
Hmm.
they do see that I guess I'm a valuable asset, and they don't want to lose that. But it's like for me, I don't want. Not that it turns into a game now, but it's like you can't have me and the guy that you eventually have in your midst. You know what I'm saying? Because you win. you know, because the guy that you're with, he has you. You have him, and then you have the best parts of me too, or the one, or the yeah, the best parts that you want of
Yeah, I was
me.
gonna say the parts that they want.
What do I get? You know what I'm saying? Like I get nothing. You know what I mean? And and probably some people in your audience are probably saying, "Well, you get a best friend, or you get a friend." It's like, no.
Ain't nobody got
You know
time
what I
for that.
mean? Like, yeah,
I got
yeah.
enough
You know what I'm saying?
friends.
Like, what you mean? Yeah, I trust me. I have plenty of friends. Okay, I don't need any more, especially not in that dynamic. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so again, we'll pause on Brutus for now as well. We're gonna move on. There was the religious, quote unquote, religious, not so religious girl. Go ahead and
Right.
give us the little tidbits about her.
Yeah, so I mean, religious girl, that was just a joke because that was an inside joke with me because she wasn't necessarily religious. She was more agnostic, where I mean, I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I mean, that's pretty much it. But she really couldn't jive with that because I mean, whatever. But uh, I guess she didn't like the amount of religiousness that I had within myself, but I'm not really that religious. It's just I guess I was just more than her, but that's the play on the words. But again, essentially, I mean, well, that was really the big thing. Um, because I really don't remember anything else that really like broke us apart. Like because I guess because I remember we had, which is weird because we only went out for like a month, but we had the talk of like children and stuff, and she was like, I wouldn't be able to raise you know, children under, you know, like a Catholic leadership and or tutelage and stuff like that. But I wasn't gonna be like, hey kids, let's go to church and stuff. I don't even go to church, So I don't know where she got that from, but I mean, I get it. But I mean, that was, I mean, pretty much it. That was more cut and dry.
So one of the nuggets I remember most from the story about her was her meeting her eventual husband a day after you guys went on a date, or like first date or met. What can
Yeah,
yeah can you run that back for us real quick? Because that's
sure.
that's an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah. So I went on a date with her. I don't remember the year, but it was the year. If any geeks out there remember the year that Pokemon Go came out, it was that year. Because I remember it was a frenzy when we were her and I were going out, but it was like July 8th. The date was July 8th when we went out, and she just recently got out of like a 4-year relationship, whatever, and she just wanted to date. And I was like, okay. So we went on our first date. We met at a diner, and within like 5 minutes of the conversation, she was like, "Oh my god, like you're like so cool. Like I want you in my life forever." And I'm like, "Pardon?"
It's like, okay, crazy.
But like again, okay, so I mean, you heard that my first love language is touch. My
Hmm.
second love language is words of affirmation. So that even though that was wildly like a wild, thing to say. Like that felt good because that, I don't know, it assured me that I was like a cool person, a good person, and a valuable asset to a partner. So, yeah, we went out for a while. We went out for like a month and stuff like that. And then again, like I say, like we broke up. So a couple months after that, I was on Facebook, and then I saw that she put like, "Oh, I'm in a relationship with blah blah blah," and then I was like, "Okay, well, that's cool," and then that was quick. But then I saw the date that she put that she started being in a relationship, and it was July 9th. And I was like, July 9th? Why does that sound so familiar? So I went to my phone on my calendar, and I saw that the day before, July 8th was when we had our first date. So I was like, whoa, she met this guy the day after me. So I guess, she was just dating,
Yeah.
which is fine. But I was just like, whoa, that is so crazy. And then, the crazier part was that he ended up, he ended up studying the, the, mental illness that she was suffering from. So I was like, oh, wow, that's kismet. You know what I mean? Like, all right. So there's that.
Okay. So we gonna jump on. We got two more ladies to talk about, right? So
Sure.
from here we're gonna jump over to Yoga Girl. So tell me a little bit about Yoga Girl and how that relationship fell apart.
All right, so yoga girl, yoga chick. She it, met her on OkCupid. And if anybody knows OkCupid, well, I guess all of them pretty much do this now, but it goes by match percentage, and ours was like at like 61, and I was like, ugh. I was like, all right, forget it. But her, she was just like, oh no, like I've read your profile and I see that we're like we have stuff in common and we're like both passionate about this and that and whatever. I was like, okay, fine. And I was like, you know what, why not? So we met a couple times. Really, really, really cool girl. She had a thing about initially initially touching. She didn't like to be touched initially because she thought it was very like intrusive.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't be allowed to like touch, like literally you wouldn't be allowed to touch her until she was comfortable. I was like, you know what? Cool, no problem. I'm not trying to catch a case. So yeah, we chilled for a bit. We went apple picking and all. Yeah, apple picking and all that stuff. And we just she was also a vegan too, and that was rough for me because I was just like, okay, well, if I'm gonna be with this chick, then I think I have to become vegan too. you know
At least when you're around her.
so like, but I did my due diligence. I would find vegan spots around where I lived because she lived like an hour away from me, so I would go um whenever she'd come down to me, I'd find vegan spots and all that stuff. So I did my due diligence, but soon enough, like it began to crumble. We weren't really like matching with things anymore and all that stuff. And then we just weren't vibing anymore. And then we just broke up or stopped dating. Sorry.
Mhm. So one of the things you mentioned that frustrated and annoyed you after the fact, after you guys broke up, was something she mentioned to you about her no touching rule and how um, she wished that you would have um, tried more, or how did that come about?
Well, yeah. I'm so I mean, our main our main device of communication was like through like email, like literal email, not like texting and stuff like that, because that's where um we're at least like intellectually like compatible. So like that's how we wrote to each other. And I remember like we were saying that like yeah, this wasn't working anymore, and it was mutual. We didn't like break each other's hearts or anything like that. It was very mutual. And then I just wanted to say, like man, I wish I was able to like try more, but I was kind of like stifled and stuff because again, I wasn't allowed to touch her. But I will give a caveat though. Like I know that um like in the maybe like the first week, like we were allowed I was allowed to like hold hands with her, so like that was cool. But like it was never really more than like that. Maybe like a cuddle here or there, but it was never like, okay, we've moved on to this stage, you know? So I just wish that it was like more. And then she was like, well, yeah, you could have like tried more if you like you really wanted to or something like that. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, you made it a point to tell, because we had a long conversation, because I never heard anybody not wanting to be like, touched or whatever. Like, you give somebody a dap, you give somebody a hug, give somebody a handshake, whatever. That's like normal. But me hearing that, like, oh no, I don't like to be touched or whatever. One, I thought it was weird, but two, I thought it was interesting. At least, so we had a whole entire conversation about this. So I was just like, no, 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 no. You can't tell me that I don't want to be touched or whatever, but then tell me you should have tried more. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
overstepping your boundary um on the account that you might have liked it if I did that,
Yeah.
cuz that's I'm crossing a line. Now I've crossed the line. Now it's on you whether it's good or not. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that decision to be on you. That decision needs to be on me.
So so now that's something that I thought was fascinating too. Like in listening to the episode and listening to that story, one of the things that I immediately thought of was, well, you know, comfort zones, right? Something like that, not knowing her specifically, but hearing something like that, it kind of brings me to, okay, what has she been through in her past? What type of traumas that she might have been through that may have brought her to this point, right? How deep does it go? What are those limits? Those are the types of things that I kind of think about, right? Because for her to say that on the back end kind of tells me that maybe she was looking for you to help kind of guide her through and get her through that patch and kind of reach a comfort zone to break her out of that shell. Because I know one of the things that you mentioned specifically is, kind of similarly with some of the previous with the previous girls, is that the next guy that she was dating, as you saw on social media and whatnot, it looked like they were pretty touchy feely right out the gate, more or less, you mentioned, right? So
Yeah.
so that for me is one of those things that kind of tells me, like, you know this is somebody who may have been looking to you, or just to somebody to help kind of bring them along and break them out of whatever it is that they were in. Did you ever get any sense of that? Did you ever think of that in your mind and think, hey, maybe I should try and put the moves on or whatever, or maybe be a little more assertive and forward, or even bringing up the conversation again just to kind of see what her mindset was, as y'all evolved through y'all dating?
I don't think so, because although I do respect your take on that. I mean, that could very well be true, but two things that made me feel like, nah, what she means is what she means. What she said is what she means.
Mm-hmm.
One is like, again, I don't know if she experienced any trauma or anything like that, but like, for instance, let's say I was coming over your house with her for the first time, right? And you open the door. I ring the doorbell. You open the door, and I'm like, "Yo, Rick, what's up, man? Hey, what's up?" And then we embrace and stuff like that. And then you automatically, because you're a jovial guy, you freaking hug her, whatever. That's the thing that she didn't like, because it's like, yo, you don't know me, you don't know my stuff, or whatever. It's like, it's very intrusive, So like,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't like that type of, immediate, hey, we're chummy chummy, and stuff like that. So she didn't like that type of quickness with being comfortable. And also, the other question that you're saying, that like, oh, maybe I should have been assertive, or maybe a little bit more touchy feely and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if this matters, but I feel it should be said that, I mean, she did state to me that she was celibate. So I was like, okay, so she's celibate, and I'm not allowed to touch her. All right, we ain't doing shit. You know what I mean?
So,
I mean,
well, I was gonna say, right, because you mentioned that as far as the not touching thing, it was mostly kind of like right out the gate, you don't know me, don't touch me, this and that. So at no point while you guys were dating, you don't feel like the comfort level improved and obviously got better and further along than that initial, hey, we're just meeting for the first time, don't touch me, as opposed to, hey, we've been going out on a couple dates, like I'm more comfortable with you and now, so if you do grab my hand or give me a hug, it's not going to be a big deal.
It did. It did gradually get better because I remember, uh, like again, like I think like our first week of meeting, I was allowed to like touch her hand, and hold hands with her, and I even made like a joke about it. I was like, oh my god, look at us, we're touching it, we're touching, and and she was just like, all right, take it easy, slow it down, and because it was it was a joke, because I was like, all right, this is cool. And I do remember, down the line we did, no, it was cuddling, but like it wasn't like big spoon little spoon cuddling. It was opposite, facing each other, like like cuddling, like on a, like on the floor, like watching a movie. But like again, I knew that it wasn't gonna go any further than that because of the stuff that she told me, and again, I wasn't going to press. Like I wanted to make sure that she knew that I was going to follow her rules. And I know it's weird because sometimes women want you to break their rules, but you need to be careful with that. Me, I don't feel comfortable with that. Like for instance, like I I always give this example about, like, like the couch example. So like if I'm on the couch and the woman's on the couch, right? And she wants me to make a move, but she's not giving me signals to make a move because she wants me to make the first move, and I'm like, damn, I want to make the first move. So it's like, if I, like, I don't know, freaking, do the old like freaking movie thing or something like that, or if I even go harder and, like, let's say like kiss her, right? Boom, I crossed the line. But now, if she likes that, it's fine. But if she doesn't like that, I'm in trouble. And it's like, I don't want to cross that line, kind of, unless you give me some kind of flag, to like wave me in or something like that, because
Hmm.
I don't know, like, to me that's, it's dangerous territory.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I get it, and of course, again, the dynamic, you know, knowing the exact dynamic would obviously give context, so it was just very, very intriguing to me that after it was over, one of the main things she mentioned was the fact that she wished that you wanted to, well, or that she wished that you would have, kind of made more of an attempt, so that's why it struck me, just because, that, again, like I mentioned before, that for me says, hey, I'm looking for you to help me, kind of get out of that zone or whatnot. But who knows what the signals were at the time. Only you guys would know that. So moving on to the last girl now, right? Last one we're gonna touch up on is Eve. So
Eve.
yes, yes. Eve was very, very, very intriguing to me. Extremely intriguing. So, please give us a quick rundown on the situation with Eve, what the relationship was like, and how it came to an end.
I mean, we're as short as I can, because it is a very intricate
Yeah, I know that
story.
one is long. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but no,
shorten
as
it.
short as yeah, yeah, as short as good as I can. We were friends for 10 years. I mean, we flirted like back and forth or whatever, and then she, she decided to like step up to me and say, hey, I like you, whatever, and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I mean, I always thought that she was cute, so like, what's good. And we tried to make it work, but because of her past boyfriend and stuff like that, it was a hard, it was a hard uphill battle, just because she was like emotionally abused and stuff like that. But I was willing to work with her because, again, we were friends for 10 years, so I knew about her past. And then um, a situation happened where we had a big blowout. Well, she had a big blowout about uh, something that happened in the news, and I had my stance and she had her stance, and she let me have it, and that was pretty much a cutoff. And it's been, I believe, 3 or 4 years since I've heard from her since. So
Hmm. So I feel like of all the girls that you mentioned in that episode, she was the most important one, in my opinion.
I
Um,
find that intriguing.
yeah, I think she was the most important one because I think of all of the situations and how it ended, that seems unresolved to me. It seems unresolved. It
Hmm.
seems like there was definitely no closure, and I get the sense that you're trying to convince yourself that you're okay with it, and I don't think you're okay with it.
I mean, cl- closure. I mean, I think it is definitively closed because what what exactly am I supposed to do? Like text her
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" You know what I mean? Remember what the last time we talked about? And then she gets all riled up again or something, and it's like, for what? I mean,
So
it's
so right so right there on that point, I'm gonna challenge you on something, right?
okay.
So when y'all had the blowout, and you made sure to specifically say she had a blowout,
Hmm.
right? Um, and knowing the story from the episode, I know why you said she had a blowout. So it doesn't seem to me, based on the story on the episode, it doesn't seem to me that even in the moment you made much of an effort to try to reach some type of closure. Because I know you're mentioning now about, oh, well, it doesn't make sense to try to get closure now, all this time later. But you didn't necessarily make an effort to do so in the moment as well, did you?
No, because in her as the lawyers say in her closing argument, she did say that, like, we were done. I cannot have somebody thinking in the way that they do as a partner. Maybe as a friend, but definitely not as a partner. And and that's what I was trying to be, because I was already her friend before. So if she has this stance, and she also said that this can't be like an agree to disagree type of argument, a kind of thing. Like, uh, she could not be with me with the viewpoint that I had, or not, maybe not even the viewpoint that I had. That my viewpoint didn't match hers, So it was done. It was over. She said that, and then, like, boom, that's it. Goodbye. So I was just so it wasn't, and I didn't even, again. I mean, you were right. I didn't have like a retaliatory statement to go back and forth, because one, I already knew what my stance was, and two, she knew hers. Like, so I wasn't. My point was not trying to convince her about my thing. It was just that, to at least hear my viewpoint, but she didn't even want to hear that, which is absolutely fine. It's her prerogative. Um, so yeah, so it was done. So it's just like, okay, that's it.
So this is one of the things, I kind of teased in, pre-production conversations and whatnot, right? So this is one
Okay,
of the things where, I definitely wanted to challenge you specifically on the situation with Eve and how it ended, right? So
sure.
as I understand it, long story short, um, the Louis C.K. controversy happened. She had her stance as a feminist, as a woman. You as a man, after cancellation and rebirth, and he's going back on tour, you, yeah, obviously don't agree with the things he did, more or less, or whatnot, but as an artist, you were interested in seeing him live, because as an artist you appreciate his art, which I totally understand. So the thing that I didn't quite understand is, knowing knowing her feelings, knowing her stance. Um, I know there was an incident or a conversation or whatnot that had happened that you guys had early on that kind of rubbed her the wrong way, but you guys kind of um, were able to move beyond all of those things coupled together. Why would you invite her to that show or even put it out there so aggressively that you're going to that show and want to go to that show?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, it's because it's like I don't know. I mean, I was going out with her, and I really didn't know that she would take it like so offensively because I knew that like she was like a feminist, but I didn't know like she was like almost like like one of like the third wave like feminists like that. So because like I don't know, I didn't want to. I did like want to include her, but you're right in the back of my mind because when I did invite her, she was like, "No, like why would I go to that? Like no, he's canceled." And I was like, I mean, and I said it. I texted her. I was like, I knew you would say that, but but I guess I just wanted to cover my bases, just like, hey,
Yeah,
I
nah,
asked
see,
you.
yeah, that's the part for me. Like the fact, like when you put, I knew you'd say that. That also means I knew I should not have asked you if you wanted to go to this show. I should have known better. You
Hmm.
know, that's what I hear.
Hmm.
Like once I
Right,
hear I
right.
knew you'd say that, to me
Hmm.
that tells me you're like I should not have asked that girl. I should have known better than to ask that girl if she want to go see the show. You know, because realistically, here's the thing,
That's fair.
you guys are dating, right? So I feel like the conversation and the situation is completely different if it's, hey babe, so listen, Louis C.K. is gonna be in town. You know, I know there's a whole lot of stuff going on, whatnot. I was thinking about seeing him. What do you think? Then it's a conversation and kind of navigating that, I don't want to say together because I don't know how serious it was at that time, to know if that's one of those types of things you navigate together. But I think it hits completely different than knowing that she's gonna say no for the reasons that she's gonna say no, and you bringing that to her because on her end now it comes off as, is he serious? Like, does he really not know me? Does he really not care to know me? Does he not care about the things that I've shared with him in the 10 years we've been friends, let alone however long it is we've been dating? So that's why that was the most intriguing for me, is because just the way everything went down and the way everything ended. I Hey, look, man, you my dog, you my ace, but that one was on you, man. Like, I'm with her on this one. Like, I think you dropped the ball there, and not only that, I do believe that her blowing up, and even if she said, "Oh, hey, it's done, that's it, it's over," you just saying, "Oh well," she said, "It's done, that's it, it's over," and not even trying. To me, that shows a bit of a lack of accountability as well, because again, knowing you went into that situation expecting almost the exact outcome that you got, and you proceeded that way anyway, just to be like, oh well, she said it's over, so nothing I could do, another one
Hmm.
bites the dust, so me personally, I think that one was on you, and that's why, again, for me, that's why I say there is no closure, and you may need you may need some closure off of that one. I think that would be a major key in just the evolution of yourself, is to you should have taken those bullets in the moment at the time. You should not. I don't think you should have ducked that smoke. I think things could have been a lot different. Not to say it could have been fixed and y'all could have been together or whatnot. Who knows? But in that moment, I don't think you should have ducked that smoke.
Okay, I mean, I can take your criticism, but at the same time, and I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong, but the way that like she came at me, and it is a very interesting angle that you did put that in. But I think we would have been in the same position because in the next couple of months there was going to be another controversy with Kevin Hart and the Oscars, and then I know that we both would have been on the on opposite sides of that too. So
Yeah.
like it would have been, if it wasn't Louis C.K., it would have been Kevin Hart. If it wasn't for Kevin Hart, it would have been whatever else that was coming up. You know, choose. I don't think we would have. I don't think we would have been that mature enough to have conversations like that. Because even when the Kevin Hart and Oscars things came up, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what would have happened if we were still together and I would have had that conversation. Because it would have turned out like the Louis C.K. one. So
So on that note, this is another thing that kind of really jumped out. It's a pretty common theme throughout all of these girls, right? The notion of, hey, even if it worked out, then the Kevin Hart thing would have came along and would have happened again. Um, One of the things that I found throughout that conversation and jumping in and out of those different scenarios is nonstop, constant examples of you essentially putting roadblocks in your own way. Like you literally building these roadblocks in front of you. It's, oh, well, there's there's that guy waiting in the wings. So what's the point? It's not gonna happen for me. Oh, well, she likes ATVs, and I won't get on ATV. So what's the point? Um, oh man, the Louis C.K. She said it's over. So that. Oh well, it's over. So it's like, oh man, I don't like holding hands or hugging. All right, well, she says she doesn't like touch holding hands. So I mean, it's hands off completely. So I think there is a bigger issue of self sabotage. No, do you notice that at all? When you're kind of going in and out of some of these situations and playing them back.
I mean, I can see what you're saying. I mean, I guess I can admit that I can, be my own worst critic or something like that, or like, yeah, uh, put up my own walls and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess I don't know. I guess in those situations, it's like how do you um like how do you like move forward from those things? So let's say like the ATV thing, like yeah, I won't go on an ATV, so like I guess it's done. Like I don't know, like what would be the alternatives? Like just to go on it to like appease her? Like what about me?
But
Or something like that. I don't know.
but no, see, here's the thing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Why is your immediate mindset is do it to appease her, as opposed to you've never done it before. You might love it. Why not do it just to see if you might like it?
Right,
You
right,
understand
right.
what I'm saying? So I think that's what I see a lot of times where you you flip the narrative to say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this just to do it for you," as opposed to stepping back and saying, "Well, I've never done it before, so I don't even know if I don't like it. I can say I
Right.
don't like it and I say I don't want to do it, but I've never done it before. So how do I know if I don't like it and don't want to do it? So why
Right.
why is it when you look at trying something or taking a risk, your immediate mindset is I'm not doing that for such and such instead of how about I try it for myself?
I believe the obvious answer is just fear. You know, and you don't want. I guess you don't want, or let me. I guess I don't want to be on the other. I don't know what is on the other end of that. What is it? People fear what they don't understand. You don't want to be on that other side. So it's like, I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, I would have to go through each specifically to give a proper answer. But yeah, I mean, the common denominator is fear, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, see, because one of the things I mentioned, I hear you mention like falling short a lot, in the episode or whatnot. It's like when you, as it pertains to being with the girl today and then it's over and then the next guy she ends up marrying, where that happened like maybe like 3 or 4 different times, or maybe
Good
even
luck,
more.
Chuck.
Maybe even more. Good luck, Chuck, over here. Exactly, and mentioning how you fall short, but the more I look at it as not even you falling short. It's just that you're essentially, kind of tripping yourself up, because your mindset seems to be fixated on the fact that it's like, all right, well, I'm with them, and then I'm not enough for them, and they leave me, and then the next person is everything they wanted, and they move forward, and meanwhile, a lot of the things I hear, I get the sense that when you are with them, you're actively working to convince them that they shouldn't be with you, or convince them that you're not what they're looking for, or convince them that you can't live up to what it is that they may want or need from a partner, so that's where, Eve specifically, kind of came up in that aspect, but all of them really, all of them just going through, like, that's almost always the mindset where you set this limit, where you essentially say, I can't give you anything beyond this. There's absolutely no way I can give you anything beyond this. So if you want anything beyond this, I'm not the guy for you. When meanwhile, you have no idea what is even beyond that. You haven't looked, you haven't checked, you haven't scrolled through to get an idea. You have no idea. And it's like you're setting these limits for yourself, and these girls, whether they actually want to stay with you or not, they're at a disadvantage because you're handicapping them, so does that am I way off there? Is that something that you've identified at all?
I don't necessarily think like you're way off. I mean, you do have a point with like especially what you're saying, that like I can't give you any more than this. I do feel that a lot, because but at the same time, like the women do tell me what, not what they expect of me, or what they expect of a man. They'll say things, hey, can we do this, can we do that, whatever, blah blah, and at the times I'll be like, no, I can't, I'm sorry, like I can't, and I would feel bad because I'm like, damn, I can't do that, and whether it's like, I don't know, going out to, I don't know, whatever, like, not to dinner, I mean, not like that, but like maybe something like more specific, or go to like maybe that restaurant like in the city or something like that, or whatever, like they have told me that thing, just like with Brutus. I could not move in with her. I literally had no money to do that, so there's the cap. So yeah, we can have fun, we can play house in your house, but you want me to move forward with you to move in, even though that is weird, only 4 months in, but whatever. But I couldn't do that, so
Hmm. Yeah,
there's
but
that.
I think even still, all right, I get that, right? And I feel like that's an extreme situation, right? You're talking that's 4 months
Mhm.
in or whatnot. But
Yeah.
even in a case like that, right? So is that enough of a linchpin to be able to sit and fester 4 months into a relationship, and sit and fester over moving in or not moving in, whatnot, to the point where, again, you set that limit of, hey, it's not possible, so get over it. And if that's what you want, then this isn't gonna work out. I think it still ends up being, look, here's the thing. People change to attain what they want. You have to
Sure.
sometimes,
Yeah.
you have to
Mhm.
most of the time.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that I've seen, based off of your explanations with how some of these relationships have ended, is merely you saying, this is who I am, this is how I'm always going to be. There's never going to be any possibility of changing this. So if you can't accept this, then I have nothing else for you. Now, that's a slippery slope because, grand scheme of things, yeah, you shouldn't have to change for anybody, right? I understand that. But I think in the manner that we're speaking, I'm not thinking change, I'm thinking more evolve, right? That's what I'm looking at. So going back once again to setting these limitations for yourself, drawing this line in the sand of saying, I absolutely cannot go any further than this. I can't give you anything more than this. That makes it tough. That makes it tough to continue to nurture a relationship, because a female, and anybody, right? I think men too, depending on the situation, but people in relationships are going to identify certain things that they see in the significant other, and they're going to say, hey, look, there's a couple of things that I really can't handle, right? I can't deal with XYZ, right? But you know what? I like this person a lot. I'm very interested in what could happen down the line. So for now, I'm going to try to tolerate XYZ. Maybe XYZ goes away at some point. Maybe I eventually start liking XYZ. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's all about making that effort and seeing what goes there, If you go right into it and your stance is, listen, it's me or XYZ, you stand no chance, You stand no chance. And I think that's the biggest disservice that you do to yourself, is lay out all of these limitations and kind of like bare minimum expectations to these women in an effort to kind of say, hey, I again, you're literally handicapping yourself. A woman could see you and be crazy about you right out the gate, and then first thing you're gonna tell them is, hey, look, man, if you ever wanted to, ride an ATV, then I'm not the guy for you. And it's like, well, we don't need that. Like, let's let's just see what happens. One day we end up in the desert somewhere, and here comes some ATVs. Like, you know what? Let's give it a shot.
Right, right. No, 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 no. You're right. I mean, I thought you were gonna go someplace else for something more realistic because I mean, I used to say this on every episode of my podcast because I didn't want to hide this. Was that I'm 42 years old and I live with my
Mm-hmm.
parents.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, don't worry.
and
Listen. Perfect transition once again, right? So I want to ask you. I asked you before what your definition of a man was, right? So what is your definition of an adult?
oh, someone who is independent and capable of doing things on their own, essentially. When a situation arises, more or less they can handle it on their own and fend for themselves.
So similarly to I asked, the last time you felt like a man. When's the last time you felt like an adult, based off of you know your definition and your description?
Um, I guess the last time, hmm, maybe a combination of the two trips that I've taken to Florida
Mm-hmm.
and setting up 85 to 90% of it by myself and doing it by myself. Of course, other things, you helped me with, and I thank you for that. But for the most part, yeah, that like, doing that stuff and getting to see everybody who I can see and doing everything that I needed to do. Yeah, I mean that. Um, Taking care of my mother. I feel like an adult when that happens, and also when the her nurses and her nurse practitioners talk to me about her and saying they're like, wow, like a lot of like they'll say like you don't understand a lot of family members, especially sons, like they don't do this for their mother, or they're not so well versed on their mother's medicines and or even her birthday and all that stuff, and like and it, and like thank you so much for that because you've been so helpful to us and to her to get her uh the help that she needs, and again, uh the words of affirmation that makes me feel good, that makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel accomplished, you know
Mm-hmm.
so
So looking at the two together, right? So we have, being a man, being adult, right? Um, of the two, which would you say you struggle with the most based on, just society's standards?
A man, 1,000%, 10,000%.
So how come all of the things you just mentioned specifically about, feeling like an adult, like, helping with mama, the medicine with the nurses and stuff, like all this stuff, how come that doesn't equate to your manhood, for you at least?
Because right. Because the everything that I mentioned, well, other than my mother, is solely for me, solely for one person. Now, me to take care of or satisfy the needs of another, I think that's what turns over, you know, the man thing. Like, okay, so like, let me, you've been asking me questions. Like, why don't I ask you a question? I'll find this interesting. Okay, so let's say, um, I don't want. Okay, so let's say you're in the car with your wife, right? And you get a flat, right? And you need to change the tire. Do you feel that your wife would want you to get the job done, or would she want you to do the job of changing the tire?
Yeah. In that moment, I would think most would expect that you would do it on your own.
Right. Because why? What's wrong with getting AAA doing it? You're still getting the tire fixed, right? So why not that? What's wrong with
Yeah,
that?
I mean, me logistically, it's like, AAA is probably going to take 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Where it's like, you got the stuff in the trunk, you got the spare, you got the jack, you have everything there. So why not just do it? Why wait for somebody else to
Hmm.
come and do it when you have everything necessary to get it done right then?
Right. But I think that's like the thing, like the difference between, like, not literally one to one, like the difference between an adult and a man, because like,
Hmm.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, yeah, not that you should get the job done, but like logistically, yeah, you should do it because it's here for AAA is gonna take so long. But I feel, and I think maybe 9 times out of 10, like the woman would want you to do it because it shows that you are capable of doing it. And sometimes I feel bad for the guys that, like, who can't do it but can still phone AAA, because like, I guess that doesn't count because she can phone AAA. So like,
Hmm.
why does she need you?
Hmm.
So like, that's the thing. But that's how, like, that's how I feel that like, that's the difference between, like, adult and man. So
So another thing I want to ask too is, like, again, you don't hide the fact that you still live at home with your parents, and
no.
based on your definition of being an adult, you're able to identify with being an adult while living with your parents, but you struggle to claim and really identify as being a man by society standards because you still live with your parents. Like, can you share some of your thoughts around that dynamic between the two, while still living at home?
I mean, like, in what sense?
So, again, like, living at home doesn't seem to negate your adulthood, right? In your opinion, is that correct?
More or less, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but living at home for you does negate your manhood.
Yes.
So I'm curious to understand how you justify that in your mind, where yes, I live at home, I'm an adult, but yes, I live at home, I'm not a man.
Right, because okay, so again, with the adult thing, I handle my affairs. I'm not a freeloader, and stuff. I don't want to give that impression that I'm a freeloader. I pay my own bills and stuff like that. I take care of my parents, take care of myself as well. I have a full time job. So yeah, I handle those things, but you know, I'm not independent. I am still dependent on my parents for the fact of, uh, I still live with them. The car that I drive is not mine; it's my father's. Um, and like it's just stuff like that that I feel will become a hindrance if I were to pursue a relationship, especially at my age, because if I were to go for a peer who's in her, like, late 30s, early 40s, um, that's not an appealing trait. I mean, there's no secret. You and we share things all the time, on social media, and granted, they are specific types of women that we share that talk about these things. But needless to say, that spectrum broadens out in the comments, and the people in the comments are agreeing with the people that we post, not that we post about, that we share the posts on. And also, you can see the likes get higher and higher and higher in agreement. And it's like, well, I wouldn't want this person, blah blah blah, as a man, and all this stuff. We see that every day. Maybe that's bad because we might be creating an echo chamber, but I don't necessarily think that, because obviously, clearly, that's not all women, but you'd be foolish to not recognize that there's a portion that think that way.
Hmm.
And uh, I think it's, yeah, more than likely that a woman would be like, ooh, 42, and you know you still live with your parents. And another thing too, I'm not even on salary. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what? I mean, I know you're gonna
Listen,
flag me on that for handicapping myself, but like,
listen,
again, I'm stating facts.
listen. Let me tell you something, man. Being on salary ain't what it's cracked up to be, especially when you work in retail. You want that time and a half and overtime, bro. so so let's talk about it. Like how do we get there? Like how do we arrive at 42 and still living at home? Like did you never want to leave? Like I know you went off to college at a certain point, and you lived on campus, and you went to school pretty far, upstate New York and whatnot. So what was your experience like living away from home when you did, and why do you think after coming back you never left again?
Well, I mean, you're right. Yeah, I did go to I went to Alfred State University. Um, was it Alfred University or State, whichever? Because the both schools were literally across from each other, so I don't remember if it was State or State University. But regardless, I went to Alfred State. So yeah, I did not do well. I went there for graphic design, and I always liked graphic design, but I wasn't good at it. So I don't necessarily know why I decided to major in it. But I did horrible. I was on academic suspension. But through uh, through that lesson, I don't know how I got into it, but I was getting into poetry and stuff like that, and writing. So I found essentially my calling in writing through my failures in graphic design. So
That's normally how
I
it
wouldn't
works,
I wouldn't
right? I feel like
yeah.
that's always kind of like the story of how such and such eventually found such and such, right? It's like,
Hmm.
learning something while you're failing at something else.
Yeah, no, and I loved it. I thought I had a knack for it. I would show people all the time, like, whatever I'd write, they'd like it and all that stuff. And then, of course, academic probation. I came home and never went back. That was a hard thing because my parents spent a lot of money on that, and I mean, luckily it wasn't that much since it was like a semester and a half or something. So, and then I went to my community college and I graduated from that. And I told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to I'm not going back to school. I'm not good at it. I can't do it, but I do want to do like this writing stuff. And then I remember I tried to do it on my own. Really couldn't get ahead of it, so I decided to go to Old Westbury on Long Island. I went there for I believe 2 semesters. That was okay. I didn't graduate from there. I just went there, and then I was like, all right, now I'm really done because now I'm just wasting my time, wasting money, loans, and all that stuff. And then I just decided to just do things on my own. So took I took a lot of just like either online classes or try to learn in like radio and all that stuff, and it just progressed with that to just try to circumvent like the whole schooling thing, and I guess just try to do like makeshift um trading school, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I studied for radio. I did several podcasts, well, I did the podcast with Brutus, but then after that I did other podcasts working for people, and then through that, I decided to hone my skills, my writing skills, and I wrote like a screenplay. Then I went to school. I did an 8 week screenwriting class at New York Film Academy, and that was really fun. I love that. I mean, I at the time I couldn't go to the school because it was way too much money, but it was awesome. And then again, I did that, and then I decided, on my own, hey, let me see if I can write a book. Did I know all the tenets of writing a book? No, but I went online to see how to write one, like the guidelines, what do you need, and then I started doing that, and then I was like, no, I want to finish this. So, but throughout all those things, I did retail job after retail job after retail job, and that's what it was. And I never quite got high. I mean, the highest position that I've ever gotten was assistant manager. I was never a manager in any place. Assistant manager, But then again, that was me because I never really wanted to go. I didn't want to go higher than what would be a detriment to my real passion, because I feel that that would be too much responsibility, because I really wanted to do that thing as
That's
opposed to just, oh, go ahead.
that sounds like those preset limits again, though. No,
Hmm. I
I mean,
mean,
again, you're handicapping yourself and telling yourself that you can't pursue a higher level job or a promotion because if you do, maybe it's going to affect such and such on the backside where you don't even know, right?
sure, I literally don't know, but it will. Because I have to give my all to the company because they're looking at me. They're looking
Yeah,
at me
but
to.
I mean, yeah, okay. Logically, I can say you can say that, but again, for me, that sounds more like another. Hey, I'm scared to try this, so let me just create this excuse as to why I can't even do it, and then I don't have to do it, and I don't have to try it.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
that's a running
Yeah.
theme. That's a running theme. So even specifically with circling back and tying it with still living at home, right? I know your desire to not live at home already. That's been the case forever. You've been contemplating the possibility of leaving. So again, how are we at 42 and you haven't made that move yet? What is it that's kind of holding you back?
Uh,
And hold on,
the number one part.
before
Yes.
you answer, I don't want to hear money in my job as an answer.
Okay.
Because people save up and get money to move out and do stuff all the time.
Sure.
All right. So go ahead.
It's my mother.
Okay.
That's my number one priority. It's
Hmm.
it's my mother. I am her health proxy. My father relies on me to know the things that I do know about her, because not to say that he's dumb or he's not capable. It's just that he's I mean, not to diss him. Like, he's a foreigner.
Hmm.
He doesn't
No,
understand all
yeah,
the like
no, that
English and
makes
all that
sense.
stuff. So I'm that person. So if I leave or do that, if I leave, then what happens to her? I mean, again, it is still fear, but rooted someplace else. You know what I mean? I don't want I don't want anything to happen to my mother.
So, with that in mind, then would that essentially mean that there technically is no plan to move out anytime soon? Then, because your mom and taking care of her is still a variable. So, based off of what you just said, would it would it mean that that's not something that, regardless of how much you may want it to happen, it's not going to happen?
I mean, I can't answer that. But I do think about it all the time. I've talked to other family members about this situation, because it's like, I mean, and this is gonna sound morbid, but it's like, when does my life begin? When does my life begin? Like, do I have to wait for my mother to die for it to begin? Who's to say when she's gonna die? I mean, look at the freaking queen. Look and see how long she lived. You know what I mean? So what? So like, okay, so let's say my mom dies at like whatever 90 something. I'll be 80 or whatever, and then I'm like, okay, awesome, I can move out now. I'm 80. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
no, I can't answer it, but but it's a topic of discussion every day.
Hmm. Okay. So we're getting close to the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, though, I did lie earlier.
Uh oh.
Um, I said we were done with revisiting all the girls, but obviously there's one in particular we hadn't talked about. There's no way we're gonna get off this episode without talking about your ex fiance, right? So
Okay.
go ahead and give the listener a brief recap of what that relationship looked like, and how it ended.
I mean, I mean it's pretty much a summary of everything that we were talking about. I mean, to me, it was great. I loved her. Obviously, I was gonna marry her. But what's it called? How did it? How did it? How did it end? I mean, essentially, when I did propose to her and was engaged, what's it called? I was unemployed. So, and I was unemployed for like a year and a half, and she was complaining that I wasn't, I didn't have the motivation to look for a job. And even though that might, even though that might be true from a certain lens, it was more so I didn't just want to get a job just to have a job. I wanted to get the job to catapult me to where I needed to be, or at least if it wasn't going to be the job, the stereotypical my big break. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that I wanted to do, and then we would have it'd be fights about money and financials, because of course me, I was so fixated on getting the girl, I didn't necessarily think about the future with the girl. I didn't prepare about like where we're gonna live, how we're gonna live, and all that other stuff. So that's where it really crumbled. And of course, the religious aspect too. Um, she wanted me to be more religious than I was. That was going to be a big factor, but mainly again, I wasn't doing my due diligence of being a quote unquote man.
Mhm. So I asked you once before, on an episode we did way back when, if you were over her, right? And I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
my theories at the time and whatnot. Um, I know you've been working through a lot of things and trying to, go through the motions to hopefully eventually be completely over her. So it's a little bit later now since I last asked you that questions, and I'm curious what the status is right now. Are you over her?
I mean, if it's gonna be yes or no, I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
if but if you want a more nuanced, okay, okay, good.
No, no. So that the yes or no is fine, and I asked for a specific reason because um, everything we've talked about today for me kind of leads us to where we are now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking, going through and putting this episode together and just kind of thinking about the conversation I wanted to have with you. I had a main theme and a main idea and a main concept in my mind. And everything that we've kind of gone through has led us up to this, right? So, when, and for, for the listener, you guys were engaged. This is what, 10 years ago now?
It's gonna be 10 years, October 6th,
Okay.
7th.
10
Sorry.
years. Okay. 10 years in October. All right. So, 10 years ago, your mom's health was what?
10 years ago?
Yeah.
Fine.
Fine, right? No issues, no
mm,
problems, right? Okay.
mm,
My question to you, right? Not to say my question to you, my theory. I don't believe that it's your ex fiance that you're not over. I don't believe that it's her that you're still thinking about. It's her that you miss, or it's her that got away. I think it's more what she represented. You know, we talked
yeah.
about we talked about the concepts of being a man, the concepts of being an adult. And for me, it seems within that relationship, within that engagement specifically, where obviously, yes, you loved her, that's an obvious, right? But also there was a sense of escape, right? A sense of this is my way out. This is my ticket out onto my own. This is my ticket out onto adulthood and into manhood, is to get married. This is the ultimate excuse or reason I need to be able to pull myself out of my parents' house, right? And that falls apart in that moment. And then we go over the span of 10 years where you may not necessarily be as focused on recapturing the type of love or the type of bond or the type of relationship as much as you are more focused on recapturing that key, that escape, that reason to be able to say, hey, look, I've got a fiance. I'm getting married. I gotta get up and I gotta go now. And
mm,
you fast forward now to where we are 10 years down the line, where even if the fear isn't necessarily holding you back as much anymore, now there's the responsibility that you have of taking care of mom that is there. So it's easy for you to fall back and say, man, if only me and my ex fiance would have gotten married, if that never fell apart, that was my escape. That was my way out at the time. And I lost that plan. I lost that escape route. And I can't, there's no other way out. And you find yourself fixated on that relationship, not because of her, not because of missing her, but maybe more of missing your opportunity of to go into manhood and to go into adulthood. What does any of that resonate? Am I crazy? Did I just pull that out of nowhere? Like what do you think about that?
No, I don't think you pulled that out of nowhere. That is a good assessment, but I'll only go halfway with you on that. But yeah, sure. It was a get out of jail free card, being, the man, like, oh, I'm an adult now, and, I'm off, with my wife and stuff like that. So I do understand that, but also, I do, even even though I do miss her, you are right. I do miss what she represents, because I would like to have that intensity of love back, not necessarily from her, but within a new love. That's what I miss a lot, because I do think about her a lot, but maybe half of it is because of her, but the other half is what I felt when I was with her. You know what I mean? And I want that feeling back, but again, with someone new. Um, but yeah, again, but like you've said in this entire podcast, I am holding myself from that, because I would like to be more established, uh, before jumping in that pool again. I mean, that might be a detriment to myself. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. But then again, it might be a catch 22, because at my age, maybe I should be more established. So I don't know. So, and maybe I don't think a woman would wanna uh what's the damn phrase? Shoot with me in the gym, as it were. You know what I mean?
Well, I
So,
mean, so again, here we go once again, where you're setting those limits and you're
yeah,
telling this imaginary woman who you haven't even met yet
yeah.
what she's gonna be accepting from you, what is she's gonna tolerate from you, so it kind of all keeps circling back to those same type of themes, and like I look at it and I think like, so how do you break out of it? Like, what's next? What do you do? Like, is there a plan, as it pertains to, kind of putting yourself out there more, taking some chances, trying new things, like how do you get to a point where you're able to start, kind of pulling away some of these limitations that you are setting up for yourself.
Okay, I mean, I'll give you that, but you say it as if I don't see things, whether either in real life or in articles or things to like back up my statement. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I'm doing imaginary stuff. I understand that. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm pulling it out of my ass. Now, I will agree with you that yeah, sometimes it will be a handicap that I put on myself, but let's not be facetious. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, there are some, there are women that, there's songs out there. Can't raise a man. I didn't make that song up.
Listen,
That's a real
man. There's,
song.
I get that, and there's goofy songs about anything that we could talk about, right? So, I
Right.
mean, I understand that. My thing is, you cannot take these examples of, whether it's songs, whether it's articles, whether it's social media posts, like, you can't keep taking these examples of random things and random experiences that people have and store them as gospel, and hey, this is what's going to happen, so what's the point? Because if that's the case, why aren't you seeking out the opposite end of the spectrum? Why aren't you seeking out the success stories and also saying, hey, but here's where so many times it was done correctly, or the person got the girl, and this and that, and that could be gospel, so why does it seem that only the negative stuff that you pull is what you seem to hone in on and fixate on, to use as fuel for your, hey, see, this is why I can't, I don't win, or this is why it's always the next guy and not me.
I think it's just because I don't have a lot of success stories, and I see the success stories as being exceptions, or people go through the bad shit before they get to the good shit. So right now, I'm still going through the bad shit before I get to the good shit.
Yeah, but you can't. Again, you can't just chalk it up to that, bro. It's 42 years. You can't be going through bad shit for 42 years.
Hey, some
You
some people
know?
die alone, bro. Some people die alone.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I mean? That's
yeah,
there.
but
That's there
but
too.
listen, man. If I'm
There's a lot
being
of cat ladies out there.
Here's the thing, man. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't. You're doing yourself a disservice. You don't give yourself enough credit, and you pretty much just kind of you're ready for the worst all the time. And not only are you ready for the worst all the time, it seems like you go out of your way to make sure the worst happens. Like
Mhm,
sometimes for me, as someone on the outside looking in, I feel like you get more pleasure out of being let down so that you're able to have another example of being let down.
mhm,
Like that's how I see the situations sometimes. So where it's like even something that could work out for the best and could be great, you'll keep pulling at every little thread you find until that one thread you pull out crumbles the entire thing, and you'll be like, see, told you these threads were messed up. So
mhm.
that the
Damn this
mindset
300
has
thread
to
count.
shift. You're gonna get to that 200 and like 93rd, be like, that's the one.
I
you
told you
know
we need to return this.
so that's where it is. I think that was why this conversation was most important for me. Was
Mhm,
I wanted to be able to kind of call out some of the consistent behavior that I've seen from you that have become a detriment. One of the things I notice is that, again, you mention all the times like, oh, these women that you're with, you break up, they end up with someone who's almost identical to you and just have that one little extra thing. Yeah, well, guess what? That means they have a type. Everybody has a type. You yourself have a type. All of those women that you
mhm,
went through, there's a handful of things that all of them have in common. 5 or 6 things that they all have in common. We all have types. That's what happens, right? And in those stories, as I was listening, I wasn't hearing all the time girls who weren't interested in you to as much as you were and just wanted to friend zone you. A lot of times I was getting girls who really, wanted to get to know you better, saw something in you, wanted to see if they can get that little bit of extra and kind of get you out of your comfort zone, right? I think
mhm,
that's another thing. I think a lot of these women that you date, whatnot, there's so many examples of them trying to get you out of your comfort zone, and you won't. You'll refuse to do it. It's like that line that you drew from the very beginning, that limit that you set from the very beginning, it's not gonna budge. It's non-negotiable. And then it gets to a point where they are like, man, like, to your point, I really do like him, but he refuses to even budge on this or that, or even try, or even make an effort here. And after a while, that wanes on a relationship, and it's like, all right, I mean, this can't be, I guess we can't move forward, right? And then for you, it's well, ho hum, woe is me. Oh, look, there you go. Someone who's almost identical to me, except they do yoga, or someone who's identical to me, but they actually go to church, or whatever the case may be. And it's like just looking for a reason to be able to say, see, told you I can't be happy. And oddly enough, and I'm gonna pull this up so I don't, I took a couple of notes, talking about the ex-fiance, right? One of the things that stood out to me most when you started talking about her was the letter that she gave you after the fact. I believe it was, she gave you the letter after you guys broke up, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, so for me, that was the most profound part of the entire episode, right? Again, the entire relationship with Eve, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I think you need to get closure, even if it's just who knows what it is at this point now, years later. I think I think the way you handled that was horrible. That one was solely on you, in my opinion.
Mm.
And I think you took the easy way out there, and just again chalked it up to up. Oh well, she's a feminist. She doesn't like Louis C.K. But the other thing that was very, very interesting to me was that letter, because she gave you three amazing pieces of advice that, again, as we wrap up the conversation, three pieces of advice that she gave you that I hope that you really listen to and really take to heart and really start truly implementing going forward, right? One of the first things she said, and I'm paraphrasing, one of the first things she mentioned was, stop comparing the successes of people around you in relation to what you deem as a lack of success for yourself. You know, that's something, in many different ways I kind of heard you mention today alone, but I know you mentioned it throughout a lot of other conversations too. You can't stop. You can't. Sorry, you can't stop. You can't keep looking around at this person over here and that person over there and saying, "Oh well, look at they're 42 and here's what they've already done. Oh, this one over here is only 35 and look what all they've already done. Oh, this one's, whatever age and they're getting ready to do all of this. And then now look at yourselves like, well, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I haven't done this, I haven't done that." So, like again, those are all things that continue to hamper your growth, continue to hamper your evolution. Your life is your life. Everybody else's life is their own individual life. People are going to work at their own pace, and you're going to be doing yourself, continuing to do yourself a ridiculous disservice if you're constantly looking around at people around you and trying to measure up. You already have it in your mind that your success level isn't where you want it to be. So all you're doing is making matters worse by looking around and now comparing that success level to everybody else around you. The second thing she mentioned was saying that God is not punishing you. God is not purposely, withholding love from you. I think she said something like, God is not some mean kid with a magnifying glass, with the sun
With the
over you
ants.
or whatnot. Yeah, with the ants, like that's the other thing too. Like I mentioned, I feel like a lot of times you're looking for reasons, you're looking for excuses. Something goes wrong and you are an overthinker. I get it, but at the same time, you have to learn to detach. You can't keep going through every little tiny little bit of information to find, oh, that's the reason why, this is the reason why, that's the reason why, that's the reason why, this is the reason why. And every single time you go through and you make those laundry lists of the reasons why things didn't work out, guess what's not on there? You setting your limitations, you tripping yourself up, and you telling these women ahead of time that you're not the man they want, long before they may or may not have made that decision on their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third thing was, and again, which is most important, is focus on the things you want and go get it, right? Stop getting in your own way. She literally told you all this stuff that I'm telling you.
Yeah, and that's why I included it in the message. Like that's why I included her thing. Because I do know that, and those were very good things that she said, and I wanted to make sure that that was out there. That she did say those things. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I get it.
I mean, it's great advice. It is absolute amazing advice. Um the things she said in that letter, yeah, it hurts and it sucks coming from an ex-fiance, somebody you expected to spend the rest of your life with. I get it. But those are some gems, genuine gems as well. That's another thing too. I know I remember you mentioned about, oh well, in the relationships, these women will say certain things to you and they stick to you and you remember these things, and it's like, how could you say something so meaningful and so heavy, and then it's over, but you said all of this stuff. You got to remember, when people say those things, they absolutely mean them in the moment. But as things progress and as things go on, especially in a relationship, things will waver. So it's not like they lied and never meant that stuff. It's just that as the relationship went on, things changed, you know. They may very well still believe that stuff till this day. You never know, even if they have moved on, you know, within their lives. Those things that they tell you in the moment aren't just the things that they're just pulling out of thin air. So it's not for you to necessarily hold on to and say, why would you say this and leave me? At the time they said it and they meant it, you know. I think, again, for me, I'm I'm gonna be challenging you going forward. You know, this conversation, I told you, I've been telling you the whole time, you know, in prepping for this, I've been dying to have this conversation with you just because I want to see you move forward. You know, I want to see you try new things. I want to see you get out of your own way, push your own limits. You know, want get something that you've had on your list for God knows how long that you said, I'm no, I can't do that. I'll never do that. That's not a Martini thing. Okay, let's go get that done. You know, I want you to really start getting on a path of being yourself, being you, right? But unlocking the potential of what you can actually be, you know. You are the only one that can limit yourself, and I see you do it far too many times, which is ridiculous because, you know, like, you're extremely gifted and talented in so many different realms. Like, it's nuts, you know, like, to be able to see the type of creativity that you have and how you can bring certain ideas and thoughts and whatnot to life. The type of things that you got going on in your mind are fucking amazing, you know? So it's like, stop letting fear control your narrative. Stop letting fear control your narrative. Stop letting fear control your narrative. And fear ends up using you as a conduit to be a detriment to yourself, you know? We need to break you out of that, yo. We're gonna go skydiving tomorrow or
Whoa.
something. Like, I don't know. Get you to jump out of a plane, go bungee jumping, something. We need to shock your system, and we need you to find just just something other than the focus of finding love to be happy about. You know what I mean? Does that kind
Mhm.
of make sense, or am I just talking a
No,
lot of
yeah,
shit
yeah.
right
No,
now?
no, 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 no. It makes sense. And also, like, just like I said, with, like, on my own personal podcast, I said that I was gonna have like a seven series thing. Just trying to detox myself from that, and to move forward. Physically, mentally. I mean, especially with the physically part. I mean, you joke on me all the time. You know what I'm saying? With freaking Montez Ford and all that stuff. So
Loading, Montez
you
loading.
know what I'm saying? That's the goal right there.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
but yeah, so yeah, mentally and physically, I'm just trying to. Yeah, I mean, like it is. Yeah, it is time to move forward, and I am prepping for all of that. I mean, you're not the first person to say it. I'm saying it on my own. I'm aware of it and all that good stuff. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I mean, it might take a little long, but it's in the works.
Yeah. All right. That's good to hear. And you already know I'm here to help. Anything I could do,
Hmm.
man, you already know I'm with it.
No, no, no. I feel you. No, and I definitely appreciate this episode because I knew that was your intent to shock the system.
Hmm.
That's what you do, and everything that you do. You kind of rustle up everything, which is funny because people call me that I am. People have said to me that I am a pot stirrer. So it's funny that you're doing it to me when I usually do it to other people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That was
but
the
yeah,
goal. That was the goal. Hopefully I succeeded, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're getting down to the end. You already know. Before we do though, it's your show for the next few minutes. You can fire away any questions you want to ask, on topic, off topic. This is vice versa. You are the host. I am your guest. Go ahead, man. Shoot.
Man, I don't even know because like you were really getting at me, so I don't even know what to hit you with. No, but I know it's all love. I know it's all brotherly love and all that stuff. So that's
Yeah.
so that's great. But hmm, hmm. Okay, let me do a little something. Given the information that you know about the girls that I have talked about, which one would you have wanted me to end up with?
I think perfect world, Brutus and Eve, for me, sound like they were the best matches for you, in my opinion. Um, Picking between them is tough. Uh, I think Eve was well, for Brutus. I think was extremely significant early on. I think that the two of them have a very interesting dynamic because, in my opinion, the way it comes off to me is that Brutus was maybe the first most significant, and then Eve was the last most significant, and then right there in the middle is the ex fiance. You know,
Hmm.
so that's why I picked the two of them because there's a dynamic I feel as far as there was a rise and a crescendo with Brutus that eventually kind of set you up to take off with your ex fiance. And then on that fall from the ex fiance, there was this landing spot with Eve that had you manned up in that situation. We're gonna use the man up term,
Yay,
right?
my favorite phrase.
Your favorite phrase, yep. Threw that out there just for you. I know you love that. Um, I think the situation with Eve should have went a lot different, and it would have went a lot better had it gone a lot different. So, I think the two of them are key bookends to what is the greater anomaly in the middle with the ex fiance. But I can't pick between them. If I had to pick between them, I would probably lean towards Eve just because there's no closure there. There was, the 10-year foundation that you guys had of a friendship as well that would have, really, really just paid off in dividends over the term of your relationship. So if I had to pick between them, I would go Eve by a hair, but definitely Eve and Brutus. The two of them, I think, for sure stood out to me as I think those are the two of them for sure, in my opinion, are the ones that got away more than the ex fiance.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. What do you think? So, what is your counter analysis to that?
I mean, I mean, again, it's your opinion. You said that I faltered, whatever, and I mean, again, I'm not gonna sway your opinion. I don't believe that there isn't. I do believe that there is closure. Sure, again, could I have talked back and forth about it? Yeah, but again, she already said that this isn't an agree to disagree because that's at the end of it. Even if I did say something, that's where it would have ended an agree to disagree because my point wasn't to have her think of what I'm thinking, just for her to understand my stance on the thing. And so that's that. So I mean, fine, whatever. But
I get that, right? But now here's the thing again, and we're gonna go back to this because this is something that I know we're gonna have conversations about this for a while to come, even off mic, off camera, whatnot. But I think even where I'm talking about there should have been a conversation. You should have had a rebuttal, so to say. I'm not even saying in the aspect of arguing the point of right or wrong in the situation. What side are you on? What side are you on? That's not what I'm even talking about. I'm talking something as simple as, hey, you know what? You're right. I don't even know why I brought that up to you. I should have known better than to even ask you if you wanted to go. That's where I'm stuck on me, because I'm not even going into the aspect of, what your thoughts on the situation was, what her thoughts on the situation was, cancellation, feminism, wokeness, whatever it is, me too. I'm not even getting into all of that. You know, again, my mind sticks to the point right at the very beginning, that very first domino, like knowing what you know of this woman, knowing of the experiences you've had and the mindset that she has. I just can't understand why you would have thought, yeah, I'm going to invite her to this show. I'm going to see if she wants to go to this show.
I think it's because for me, even if I didn't invite her to the show, I think it's because I wanted her to know that it was happening, as opposed to, let me not say, okay, so let's say I didn't invite her, and because I did try to invite other friends, like whatever, they were busy or whatever, because it was very impromptu. Let's say I didn't invite her and she didn't know, right? So like I go see him, have a blast, whatever. And by the way, there was a lot of women in there, and I talked to them about the whole thing because when I went there, I thought there was gonna be protests. Like seriously, not a protest in sight. There were girls at my table, and I was like, what are you guys like doing here? like shouldn't you guys like be mad at him? They're like, no, we understand the situation and like whatever, like and they had their stance. I was like, wow, because I really didn't expect that. But let's say I didn't say anything, what would have the next day would have happened? Oh, what did you do? What am I supposed to say? Nothing. I didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
but
Now I'm hiding it from her.
see, you're dodging bullets again, because
How?
I'm my point wasn't to not say anything. My point was
Mm-hmm.
to not invite her knowing how she felt. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
conversation should have never been, "Hey, Louis CK's coming. Do you want to go?" The
Mm-hmm.
conversation, the proper conversation should have been, "Hey, Louis CK's coming to town. I'm actually thinking about going. I might go. Like, what do you think about it?" That's what the conversation should have been. It's not having a conversation and hiding it. It's not, hey, inviting her. I already know she's gonna say no because of her stance and how she feels. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you had the wrong conversation to begin with. So even when you
Mm-hmm.
get to the point where she has the blow up and she's mad, that's why she has the blow up. She's not having the blow up because you're going to see Louis CK. She's having the blow up because you, somebody who she's known for 10 years, who she is now in a relationship with, and who thinks you probably know her pretty well by that point, in this moment essentially said to her, yeah, I don't know shit about you because I'm inviting you to go see this man that I know for sure I've admitted to myself that you are going to say no because of what I know about you. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I do get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
that's
I I,
that's
I do I,
that's where
I
the
do get
issue
what
is.
you're saying.
So that's where I felt like, even on the back end, as mad as she was, as much as she blew up and she went in again, full disclosure, she had every right based on how the thing went about. She had every right, because this is somebody who now is questioning this entire time that I've known this man and all the things he knows about me. He, more than anybody, should have known not to invite me to this show. Yet here he is inviting me to this show.
Mm. Okay.
I'll take it. Oh man.
No, I get what you're saying and everything. I get what you're saying, and I'm not I don't want to take away what you said. It's very good, but I don't know. I don't know if it would have made a difference, especially like the what do you think? Because like let's say, oh, I think it's bad and I don't think you should do it. He's canceled, and it's like,
Yes, but
so
then
then what?
now, but no, then what? It's a conversation. Again, this, what you're doing right now is what? Putting limits, right? You're already
Hmm.
telling yourself, you're establishing how something's gonna go without even having the conversation, without even
Hmm.
trying. This is where,
Hmm.
again, being a man, being an adult, That's what an adult does in a relationship, right? That's what a
Of
man does
course.
in a relationship. Man, woman does do in a relationship. You have the conversation. So for you to say, okay, then I say it, and she says, no, I don't like him. Then what? Then what? You have the conversation. That's what happens in that moment, you know. So to just bypass the conversation because in your mind's like, oh well, she feels her way, I feel my way, so there's no point, you know. That's
I
that's
guess, but
self
hey,
sabotage. You know.
she's the one that who said that he was canceled. So I feel that she's showing her hand already. But I do get what you're saying.
Yeah, but again, you're stuck on the I'm on this side, you're on that side. That's not even it. Like I think you're still so focused about having the debate of what happened or having the debate
Mm,
over Louis C.K. And that's not
mm,
what this is about. You're not seeing that.
right.
You are continuing to chalk this up to the fact that you guys were on opposite sides of this. And I'm telling
Mm,
you, that's not why your relationship fell apart. Your relationship fell
mm,
apart because after 10 plus years, you chose to completely neglect your own intuition of knowing how she was going to react when you brought this to her, and you brought it to her in that manner anyway. That's what happened. Trust
mm.
me, I'm a married man. I know these things. it's not
I'm not
it's
saying that you
it's not
don't.
it's not always it's not always the very specifics of the details. It's
Right.
about how they're coming about and how they are being presented. And I
Mm,
mean, again, me, based off of the conversation, based off of the things that I know that you've shared with me about how that went down, you fucked up, bro. You did.
then I fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't regret
Well,
it.
you can say that, but there's also episode 114, so you can't say you don't
Mm.
regret it because it's on wax. So
Oh no, I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, I went through the whole thing, but no, I mean, I, I don't regret it. It happened. I recounted it. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
I hope at the very least that you can learn from it, because
Sure.
again, I think one of the biggest things that you don't see is the hypocrisy in some of your notions, because
Okay.
you you'll you'll be fixated on these different women, as far as, oh well, you know you don't want me because of this, or you don't want me because of that, and you don't think I'm a man, and you don't think I'm adventurous enough, and you don't think this, you don't do that, but you essentially do kind of the same to them as well. You project some of these notions the opposite way as well, where you're kind of you're putting up a wall where you're saying, oh yeah, you can't go, I can't go further than this, but then you're plucking out things to put up a wall, giving you reasons why they can't come any further here neither. So
Mm,
it's just sabotage all the way around. So I think
okay.
again, at the end of the day, the conversations have to be had. You can't just say, oh well, I read about a situation like this before and this is how it ended up, so that's how every single situation like this is going to end up. That can't be how you go through life, man. You have to try them out for yourself. You're somebody who loves DC movies, bro. Everybody and their moms tell you DC movies are trash, but you go and watch them anyway because you have your own opinion, and you will make your own opinion about it, and you'd rather experience it and find out for yourself. Why can't you apply that to all aspects of your life? Why
Mm,
why do you allow that to be the case when it comes to picking what movies you're going to watch, but when it comes to making these massive decisions in your life, it's no, no, no. Everybody else told me it doesn't work if I try it like that, so I'm not even going to bother trying.
mm.
So that's what I would leave you with. Little oh man, but we are getting down to the end. Before we go, you already know we gotta add some music to the playlist. I figure it would be only right if we went ahead and added some breakup music, right? So, I'm gonna have you add 3 tracks, but before you add 3 tracks, I'm gonna throw one on there. One of my throwback favorite joints, Miss Sherry Dennis. So Complete back when she was signed to Diddy on the Bad Boy label.
Wow.
So Complete is a badass track. Great vocals on there. Just just swooning over missteps in relationships and breakups. So that's going to be my addition to the official Mr. Eccentric playlist of breakup songs. It's going to be Sherry Dennis, So Complete. So, Martini, let me get 3 breakup songs to add to our playlist.
All right. So, I definitely like these songs a lot. I don't know if they're necessarily popular. Well, I guess they are popular, but I don't know if people like really know them like that. But the first one is Train featuring Ashley Monroe, Bruises. That's a really good song. I mean, maybe people don't know it by name, but I'm sure like if you hear it, you'll understand. You know, it's pretty much talking about like pretty much what we were talking about in this episode and in my episode 114. You know, about the past and things that might have been if if we taken the road less traveled and stuff like that. So there's that. The script, Break Even. That's a great song. That's a phenomenal song. That's a really good song actually. I like that song. Um, yeah, because half of the chorus is like because when a heart breaks, it doesn't break even, and because sometimes people can just we broke up, all right, peace, but the other person's like, no, come back.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And Lifehouse, From Where You Are, that's a good song too, about longing, missing the person because they're gone. Originally the song, I think one of the I think the lead singer, I think somebody that he knew passed away from like being in a drunk driving accident, so they wrote it in that fashion. But people, you know, uh, uh, repurpose it for losing their loved ones,
Losing
as in
love.
like
Yeah.
relationships and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's a great song too. So those are my 3 songs.
Bad. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, man. Always great. You already know we do this all the time. I'm
All the
working.
time.
Yeah. So we just did episode 7 together on your podcast, right? That was
Correct.
okay. So we just did our 7th episode together on the Inquisitive Nobody. The goal is to get to 10 before Fast and Furious gets to 10, right? But on the bright side, we are at number 2 together here on the Mr. Eccentric podcast. So guess what? We're already ahead of fellow spinoff Hobbs and Shaw. So clap it up. We've already passed
There it
we've
is.
already
There
passed
it
Hobbs and
is.
Shaw, right? So now we just gotta pass, Fast and Furious and make it to 10 before they do.
Take
um,
that, Rock.
hey man, before we wrap up, you already know, man. Big up yourself, bro. Let the people know who you are, what you do, where they can find you.
No, definitely. Again, my name is Martini Jean. I'm part of the Inquisitive Nobody Podcast, and you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Listen Notes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. And you can follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at TINQPOD. That is at TinkPod.
Yes, and as always, I am Rick of the Mr. Eccentric Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. As always, you can find me on all forms of social media at Mr. Eccentric. That is at MRESENTRIC. Mr. Eccentric. You could also send me email. So it's MrEccentric@gmail.com. Questions, comments, concerns, show ideas. You already know I love talking shit. So if you do too, you might mess around and find yourself on an episode, right? We are available on all streaming platforms for audio, on YouTube for video. Share with a friend. I was checking out my analytics the other day. I want to say South America and Australia, if I'm not mistaken, are the 2
Okay.
regions that I do not have a listener yet. South America
Uh
and
oh.
Australia. So if you are listening or watching right now and you got friends or family in South America or Australia, share the podcast
G'day,
with them.
mate.
Yeah, share the podcast with them. I'm gonna be looking at those stats. If you share the podcast with somebody from South America or Australia, please hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, somewhere. Just let me know, hey, I shared it, so I can look at the stat and see that pop up, man. Once again, Martini, man, I appreciate you, bro. It's always great to talk to you. Thanks for jumping on. It's a wrap for us, man. Catch y'all next time. Peace.